Tell us when we're ready. Alrighty. Hi, how are you? My name is Charles Cicirella. So, just a really quick explanation. Artists Unite actually started in Columbus, Ohio in the 90s at a place called the Enclave, which was like a bookstore, thrift store, coffee shop. It was on 2nd Avenue, right wherever around where you live, Juliet. That was before I knew you, but that's where we started it. Then I moved it to another coffee shop on Hudson in Indianola called Common Grounds, and that's when we changed the name to Artists Unite. And then at some point I moved to Cleveland. It's been defunct for a while. Lisa wanted to do a reading. She was looking for somebody on Facebook, and I had just been talking about maybe doing a reading. So that kind of just all came together. The 3 poets that are reading tonight, I'm very excited. When I started going back to readings in Cleveland back in July of last year or the year before, when was that? Was it the last 2 years? Was it a year ago?
Yes. Yeah, it's been about a year.
One of those Julys. These 3 people were not only really good writers, they were also super nice. Not only because they picked me up, all 3 of them actually picked me up to go to Mayhall's, but on Mondays, first Monday of the month. But they were all real nice. They're strong readers and strong writers. So it's really exciting they agreed to do this. Of course, 2 of them are even associated with this theater. Both of you guys? Mm-hmm. Okay, both of them are. In another theater too, right? Or is it just this theater? Julie?
I've been involved in a few.
What's the thing that you have coming up? Is it here?
No, it's in Amherst.
Okay.
It's wherever they'll take them.
Wherever they'll take them. Well, this is very exciting. And not to sound biased, but this is the best space, honestly, that I've seen since I've been reading again in Cleveland. I hope we can get something going here. Yeah. If you guys donate, we'll be able to do that. That's not a hint. So, our first, and it's only a suggested donation, seriously, $5 or more, or whatever. Maybe you have some canned goods. So, the first reader tonight is Steve or Stephen Benefit. He has been published in Thomas Mulready's Cool Cleveland newsletter, also Writing Night's 2015 Page-A-Day Poetry Anthology, and the 2015 Hessler Street Fair Poetry Anthology. He tries to attend the Mayhall's poetry readings that I was talking about on a regular basis, and he's active in several local community theaters. He also currently sells, in case you're looking for a motorcycle, he currently, and you want to buy American, obviously, you don't want a rice burner. He currently sells, not that there's anything wrong with rice burner, he currently sells motorcycles at Rock and Roll City Harley Davidson. And if you're going to buy a bike, you wouldn't be buying a bike. This is the nicest guy to buy a motorcycle from. He really is, he's a teddy bear of a man. That was a compliment. I hope that wasn't weird. Seriously, this is Stephen Benefit. Let's give him a big round of applause.
I haven't read anything new in a while. I kind of feel bad, so I've got some old stuff. Talk loudly. Talk loudly. I will try. It's been a while since I've been on this stage talking to an audience, actually. Good Lord. Anyway, so I'm a country boy. I grew up in the middle of nowhere, out like south of here, like even an hour. But I moved to Cleveland in 2005, and I fell in love with this city. This first one I wrote, just from observations, just from living in town. I started off, I had a little crappy apartment on West 18th off Denison. Not the greatest of neighborhoods, but it was a wonderful, eye-opening experience. But with that said, here's 90 west to east. To the north, the gray water lake, the condoed and apartmentalized banks of the Cuyahoga, and the city struggling to rise from Lake Erie's prehistoric shore. Her buildings are a mismatched conglomeration of steel and glass, created from the minds of 70s fancy and 80s greed, trying to swallow up the old towers and short high rises, honed from the stone, brick, sweat, and blood of people that knew what an honest day's work consisted of. The stadiums and arenas of one-time gladiators and boyhood heroes now looked upon as just places to go if you feel like pissing away $100 on bad food, mediocre entertainment, and teammates that play for individual glory, a lakeside stepping stone to something bigger on a distant shore. There is still some pride on the north side of the interstate, but it is a mask, a smiling visage over a troubled soul haunted by the failures of the past, weighed down by the problems of the present, and apathetically looking toward its future. To the south, the steel mill, the villages, and the poverty-stricken streets founder into depression and recession faster than a market butcher at the end of the day trying to talk someone, anyone, into buying his last few pieces of meat so he can go home early. The time-weathered homes are a tribute to the steel and automotive industry that once made this city great. 2, 3, and 4 family homes that offered security and pride to those brave men looking to start a life for their families in a new country and a budding city. Their children now understand the days when they had less and were happier more. Their grandchildren listen to the bedtime stories of hard work and hard luck, not understanding why their elders tell these stories with smiles on their work-worn faces and animate them with scarred, calloused hands. The steel mills that once built this city are being replaced with homes once pictured in 60s science fiction and shopping centers carelessly suffocating the 50th anniversary mom and pop delis and the single cash register grocers. What's left of the steel mill is still a source of great pride. The last flaming stack from the molten steel plant is like a candle flickering dimly in the bedroom window of a dying man. His almost inaudible voice speaks from delirium. I am still here, and although my eyes have grown dim, I see some light in the future. My gasps are shallow, but I still breathe an air of pride. And it may waver, but my heart still beats with the rhythm of the hopeful. I am not dead yet. This one, so I'm going to do kind of serious, kind of fun, kind of serious, kind of fun. This one's kind of fun. I wrote this at Charles's Page's inspiration. He had a request for poems about Elvis. And I wrote a short little piece. I didn't know Elvis, not well, not personally, but I sat by my mother as she cried when I was 2, and my grandmother bought me Teddy Bear as a vinyl single for my 10th birthday. I learned that he learned how to dance from a southern crippled kid when I was 19, and I've seen the comeback special on the History Channel. I know that he never won a Grammy for rock and roll, and I know that face down in a toilet is not how I want to go. I'm going to do my best to get through this one. Here we go, all right.
Come back to that one.
I'll come back to that one. Oof.
Sometimes you have to work up to it.
Not sure I can on that one. We'll see.
Yeah, maybe you might not read it tonight. You just don't know.
After that, lady, come on. We want to
You never know. Sometimes a little bit of time makes it easier. I had one poem.
We
like
have
that.
faith in you. We believe in you.
Here's another one. I have to say I wrote this on Charles' inspiration as well. This is a fun one. Titled, "My Dog Will Not Shit in His Yard." I love my dog to death, but I get a lot of exercise because, again, he won't. Well, anyway, my dog will not shit in his yard. He'll piss on everything and anything. The garage, the fence posts, the camper tires, garbage cans, and the fire ring, whether it's hot or not. And at 8 years old, I think I've given up training him to cut a log there. We openly debate on who gets to take him out to sully our neighboring streets by using code words so we don't have to put up with his overbearing excitement at the prospect. 3 times a day, wind, rain, snow, or sleet, I'm taking him out on tours of the neighborhood. My dog will not shit in his yard. I'm out on days that the mail doesn't get delivered. I'm out on days that get parodied by comedy troupes about live weather broadcasters. I'm out on days so bad that avid bicyclists dust off their driving gloves. His number 1 priority on a WALK is to carefully and exactingly choose where to leave his number 2. Sometimes this process is quicker than others. Sometimes it's lengthy, and sometimes he just needs an audience. Often the latter is the case. My dog will not shit in his yard. I alone am not good enough to witness his excremental evacuations. He'll wait till he sees a neighbor outside, or he'll find the house with the easily excitable dust mop of a so-called canine at the end of the street, pacing around until that muppet in the window works itself into a foaming frenzy over seeing an interloper crouched and straining on the tree lawn. And just in time for the human of the house to see me scraping the warm Tootsie Roll off the ground with a tuft of their perfectly manicured grass into a blue plastic bag covered hand. My dog will not shit in his yard. There are positives. Yes, there are. He likes to hide his odorous public offerings, and I have come to the logical elation that I should only be responsible for picking up crap that finds its way to terra firma, and then only if I can see it, reach it without pulling a muscle, or being arrested for trespassing. I have seen that dog throw it into reverse, back into a bush with his ass high, shit in the cradle of a branch, and it never hits the ground. I have seen that furry brown bastard back up into a chain link fence and shoot a steaming torpedo right through an open link like a marksman. I have seen that fuzzy brown I have seen that fuzzy football with legs walk backwards up a tree and paint a putrid Pollock on the bark of a 60-year-old maple without regard to history or the senses. I have seen that son of a bitch strut across the top of a foot of snow, force just one leg through the crust and drop a landmine in the resulting hole not to be seen again until the spring thaw. Plus, I can mow my yard without fear of latent pudding graders hiding in the summer grass. And I'm getting some exercise. My dog will not shit in his yard. This one's a little serious. It's based on a conversation I had with someone who betrayed me, lied to me. It was a rough conversation. This is not far from my side of the conversation. So this one, going back to the serious side a little bit. What am I supposed to do now? The person I knew isn't who I've known. I heard the rumor, I dismissed them as lies. It's hard to believe even now, but it came right from you. There were no tears as you told your tale. I didn't shed any as I listened. I let you talk. You made your case. I guess I can skip denial. The rumors were true. God may forgive you of your sins. I'm not even sure who you are. Someday my mind will leave me. My friends will be gone. My family will be few. What are my caretakers going to show me, read to me, or let me listen to so I can remember when? I hope when my wife and I start having children that I can teach them all that I know, all that I have learned the hard way, and introduce them to some of the people I learned it from. I hope I can teach them the things I didn't learn or am learning. Maybe we can learn these things together. They will be what I leave to the world. I want them to represent the very best parts of who I am. I want them to remind me of me when I can no longer remember myself. One more, this kind of short story-esque, I guess maybe, short story. Some of you have known me long enough, especially my wife. I had my best friend when I was 14, Jason. We hung out for like 2-3 straight years before I got my driver's license and we didn't really hang out anymore. But those 3 years, him and I have so many ridiculous stories. Stories you wouldn't believe. Stories that I still don't believe, honestly. But, and she knows it's going to be a doozer when I start a conversation with this one time Jason and I. And him and I, you know, we can be separated by 30 miles and tell the exact same story. You know, it doesn't matter. Yeah, and they're both filled with the same amount of bullshit. And most of it's based on truth, I would say that. But this is one of our kind of awesome experiences we had. I'll just start it out. We'll call it the buck. I remember it was early autumn. The trees had already shed many of their leaves, which left the air heavy with the sense of fall. But today the sun was shining, and the skies had remained perfectly blue, despite how low the sun was already hanging in the sky. My best friend Jason and I had been playing in the woods behind his house all day. I don't just mean for a couple hours, I mean all day. We had had breakfast that morning and went into the woods. We did this a lot and really couldn't think of any other better way to spend our time. The woods had a particular fascination for both of us. He, even at 14 years old, wanted someday to move to the American Northwest and become a great logger. I, on the other hand, would spend my time being fascinated at the diverse nature and science around me, pondering the hows and whys of creation, or throwing myself down hills and jumping creeks in vain, in preparation of becoming the stuntman I hoped one day to be. But today just felt different. I don't remember Jason and I talking much, laughing much, or doing much of anything, just wandering around the woods with no particular aim or purpose. After 8 hours of exploring, we found ourselves almost a mile from his house in an open field near Old Man True's property line. It was getting near sunset, and the trees were casting long shadows into the woods, and our own shadows were becoming cast into the woods to be counted with the others that were quickly darkening the twilight forest. We walked along the tree line in the adjacent cut soybean field. back to the country road that would lead us home to our families and dinner. Jason and I could often communicate without speaking, like the best of friends often do. Today was no different, and we both knew that someone or something was watching us. A couple of sidelong glances back and forth, and we knew what the other was thinking, and there was a palatable tension in the air as we slowed our pace, wanting whatever it was to reveal itself to us. And then it did. With a snap of a felled twig in the woods, we knew that whomever it was had just given up their location and their surprise. We stopped suddenly in the tractor tire rut we were following and turned suddenly to face what it was that was following us from the safety and cover of the woods. Walking with us, as if wanting to be part of our group of two, was the most magnificent buck I had ever seen to that point or since. He let out a pert snort and raised his head as if he knew we had caught him and was indignant about it. The three of us just stood there for what seemed like an eternity studying each other, pondering the hows and whys of what we were and how it came to be that we were walking together. I am sure that there was fear in all our eyes, but standing there almost within arm's reach of the creature's magnificence, size, and power, all I felt was an overwhelming sense of mutual respect. For several moments the world didn't exist. There was just the deer and I. His black eyes were filled with so much to say, and I desperately hoped mine were saying just as much. Then cautiously, breaking eye contact, the massive animal slowly turned, lowering its head slightly in a subtle farewell bow as it slowly walked back into the forest. Jason and I stood on the edge of that open field in a stunned silence, watching as the buck disappeared into the thick. For as little as we had talked the whole day, we said even less from there. The encounter with the buck had changed us both, and some days I wonder if it was just a chance encounter or something so much more. I felt connected to this animal, to the moment, to myself, and to this day, it was the closest I've ever come to having a truly spiritual experience.
Published through the Poet's Haven, and then works alongside lots of other wonderful word artists in Fuck Poetry and Cheap and Easy Magazine, Crisis Chronicles, Cyber Lit Mag, Red Fez, City Poetry, various Hessler Street Poetry anthologies, and they have another one of those coming up, and I think the deadline is the 31st of this month, so look on Facebook for that. John Burroughs will find it, and if you don't already have your submission in, you should. John does a great job putting it together. And Poets Haven Vending Machine, Poetry for Change anthologies. Christina has been known to sword fight, we were talking about that on the way here, play tennis and hang out of airplanes, dropping poetry leaflets to the underread masses in northern Ohio. I think one of those hit me a little earlier. And the poetry-starved natives of southern Michigan. You may well spy her chasing white squirrels with great fervor in Oberlin's Tappan Square, or fording streams in Mohican State Park looking for the mysteries of enlightenment. The most likely place to run into her is exploring new or used bookstores as she feeds her addiction to orphan books. And on a personal note, she has got this really unbelievable predilection to send me places that I should submit to, and more often than not, those are the places, the only places, who accept my poetry. So. Thanks for that. Realize this is my great pleasure. Christina Brooks.
Right up here. Oh, right.
Fantastic. This is your 15 minutes.
Okay.
20.
All right. Howdy. Nice to see y'all. Glad y'all made it out. And beautiful spring evening. Snow is gone. Summer is yet to show up and flowers haven't bloomed, but spring is coming. Can you hear me back there? I want to make sure I'm speaking loudly enough that you can hear me, because I tend to get very quiet. I think I'm going to start it off with a couple of, I hate to try to characterize my own poetry, because it's sort of all over the place. I tend to like mystical stuff, nature stuff, personal stuff, and tonight's offerings will be sort of scattered among those. So the first one I'm going to share, I think because it's the season and the birds are migrating, so I am going to share my migration poem. It's from the point of view of a goose. So if you imagine yourself a Canadian goose, I imagine this is probably what they see. Spring migration. Our innate nature is to seek for home, wherever home may be, a place where all becomes blessed clarity, where life is nestled into neat piles of down and feather, surrounded by kin and others of one's kind. And so it is this that calls me. The cool hours before dawn, when Jupiter winks his single eye, huddled among the cut scent of bed cornstalks and raw earth. A silent urging stirs and wakens me. I gather strength to leave these fields, and all I feel now is yearning. Breaking free of the lowland fog, in search of open air, my stiff wings grope the darkness, stroke in rhythm for places to hold. Dawn's blush, only a thought as we rise, the ground falling away, the earth forming a mottled palette of grays and greens, veined with glints of silver. The day wakes, fields and forests pass below, we pass foreign soil long forgotten. The fleeting gleam of water and marsh appear from the brightening shadows. The last of the lingering snow glows faintly from places far below. A tinge of rose settles on the horizon. Our long days of flight begin and end in darkness. My companions and I take turns leading and then following the river's course. We stop, take food and rest, nestled under budding orchard branches, feeding on leftover autumn apples and newly greening grass. We guard against rogue foxes who try to thin our ranks, and we fly again long past the setting sun, in search of secluded marshlands by moonlight. This morning it is the smells that capture me, the musky scent, no longer subtle but ripe and pungent, the scent of expectation and commingling. Prospective mates, the waking earth, the open water, a confluence of feelings and places. A land marked with the familiar, the native bite of anticipation. I am alive with earth and the sky, with a taste of coming home. A long expanse of water looms ahead. 1,000 diamonds shine on the horizon. The growing noise of kindred calling, calling, calling. The excited cacophony of honks and screeches. We sight the tall rushes along the bay and land in a clatter of feathers and feet. So long since this cool water caressed us, so long since we could call out again, home, home, home. When I was 6, I had someone I thought I was going to marry. All 6-year-olds have someone they fall in love with. And his name was Danny Moon. And I remember I was heartbroken when he moved away. So this is sort of a poem about Danny. And I lived in Detroit at that time, in the city, and the address was 6627 Seminole Street. So that's the name of the poem. When I was 6 years old, we pledged our love to one another with the scent of artemisia. There was, across the alley, along the shaded sidewalk, it grew between the apartments on Harper Avenue. Danny and I would kneel in the dirt there, plucking leaves through the fence, believing that the scent of those silver leaves was magical, an elixir that would keep us together. We would crush them between our fingers, inhaling their sweet and spicy smell, thinking that we would one day marry. We were only 6. and in love after all. But several months later, his mother remarried and he moved to Texas or Chicago or somewhere. I don't remember where, but it didn't matter because what mattered was that he was gone. What remained was defined by my reflections and my impressions and not by the reality of things. Because it was the impact that it left on me, not the facts that mattered. With feelings, reasons don't really matter. It seemed that men and boys were always leaving. No one seemed to stay here long on Seminole Street, not fathers and not friends. Men moved through my life like shadows, seldom leaving marks, often leaving holes, and they still keep moving, and I keep feeling like I am here, standing still forever. And this is another poem about living on Seminole Street. I think a lot of people my generation remember this, and I fear that there will be a whole generation of children that will not have the joy of remembering experiences like that because they don't play outside anymore. This is called Streetlights. When I was a child, we could only stay out until the streetlights came on, and we were often called to come in right when things were at their best. Often in the middle of a rousing game of cigarette tag or hide and seek, running, hiding, giggling, moving shadows with audible feet. Playing on the edge of darkness, beyond the widening circles of light, shaped by the city street lamps, we would stretch out time. It was like a loose rubber band waiting for it to finally snap. I could hear my sister's voice as it echoed between the houses. Fourth and fifth time calling, insistent, "It's time to come in!" But against dusk, she waged a losing battle. It was a time of magic, a time to vanish and become unseen. Some of us were so skilled in the technique we could hide inside a knothole, or behind a spider's web, under a bird's nest, or in that small space just behind the left side of the Milky Way. So we'd cling to the growing darkness, linger there in its magic space, till the last possible breath, surrounded by the sounds of the newly waking nightfall. Bats fluttering overhead, stretching their leathery wings, their soft squeaks mingling with the growing glow of the evening stars and the periodic drone of the cicadas in the elms nearby. That was all that was punctuated by the random bursts of laughter as someone was discovered streaking their way to safety, trying to find home before being tagged in. The joyful shrieks, the panting of breath, scampers of footsteps, the only clues that we were ever even half aware that time was short and night enveloping us, because we knew we could only stay out till the streetlights came on. Some of you who know me know that I was married to a man who was 25 years my senior. I married one of my college professors.
Wow.
And he died 3 years ago, next month, or a month from now, from Alzheimer's. There were also some difficulties in our relationship. He was somebody I loved very dearly, but we had a rough time that we went through, and this poem I'm going to read now is one of them. It's titled "The Memories of the Woman from Brazil." She's just in a few photos, snapshots from a trip that you took long ago. Blonde hair, brown eyes, pretty. Red sweater in one picture, a black dress in the other, standing behind you in each shot on a stone veranda. I never would have known and wished I had never known of her existence, had it not been for your emails or the ones you'd forgotten to delete on your trip to Italy that year. Instead, there were letters for me to find in your mail when I checked your account, the way you would ask me to, the way you wanted me to, for there were several of them. And I wondered if it was just an accident, or if you had wanted me to know. Today, I still don't know, and probably never will know, because you do not remember, not even her name, or how you met her, because of your illness. Finding the pictures again reopen the wounds, and you think it was yesterday, the feelings of sickness that washed over me. It never gets better and never gets old. The pain sets aside, is set aside like the photos that I found. I never met this woman from Brazil, but if I did, I know what I would ask her. I would ask her if it had been good. I would ask her if you had been gentle or rough. Did you sweep her off her feet with your smile? Did she laugh at your jokes and compliment you? Were you romantic? And I would also ask her, did he ever happen to mention me? Did he tell her? Did you tell her? Or did she tell you you were married? Did she? I can't see that. Did you tell her you were married? Did you ever tell her that you loved her? I would ask her if she knew what she had done to me the day I found those letters that fractured my world, those letters from the woman from Brazil. And feeling and remembering all this, I asked myself how I could ever do this to someone else. And yet I did, and every day I hate myself for it. To safeguard the remnants of your shattered mind. And why are these memories so important? Ephemeral and distant, yet somehow they represent so much to me. I hand you a poem I've written to proofread about your own memories, and it only triggers a vague recollection for you. I now remember them better than you do. Why does it hurt so? And why is it so important for me to preserve them? Memories of you, who I lost all those years ago to a woman from Brazil. It's titled Plastic Reality. In your diminished state, you are still a teacher, teaching about the nature of reality through koans and conundrums, they now being your offered gifts, living in a world of calm uncertainty. Life is no longer colored by joy or sorrow. Apprehension is the one emotion that is left in your dwindling repertoire. Without a word, you teach about the universe and its impermanence. In your mind, time is standing still, showing creation and destruction as our intimate neighbor. Daily lessons in the importance of connections and how they are made and then broken, and how life's meaning is dependent on context, how without them everything falls apart. The power of limitation in your language, silence and forgetfulness, the curriculum, the inseparable twins that follow us, spinning out of control in their inevitable orbits. This next poem is probably going to sound a little obscure, but I'll give you some background to it. After my husband passed away, I had a series of dreams about him. And this particular poem is sort of trying to describe this dream and the context of it. But it just was so striking to me at the time that I had it. And it just, it seemed like it meant something. So I wanted very much to write it down. It's titled Seamless. We are at a small park along the river, and we are walking. Water's edge, brickwork, a safe crossing, and here there is a sign that says immersion. Points of a compass that are laid out flat. Am I facing up or facing down? I have no sense of direction, and I am honing my senses, my ability to see. I look up to see the stars are gone. Only blank canvas there where we launch our boats into the river. Transparency, fluid motion, clear stream, movement. I'm told we cannot stay in one place. Behind me, someone says a place is dedicated to Hart Crane, and I make notes and I scribble. Discernment, I see mosaic, movement, I think, origins. birthplace, beginning. This mandala of time is one we must cross over, or be lost at sea, or not be. We have failed to enter the stream. Are we streamless yet? Things seem to fit together to be seen. Seamless. This is the rest of the journey. I am not seamless yet, but I wish to be. And I think I go back to that moment in time. And so I will do just a couple of those. They're going to be obscure, and you're not going to know who it is, but that's okay. This first one is titled Asphalt Miles. The asphalt miles stretch to light years, while wiper blades work to wipe the silent tears reflected in the tail light glow of the long haulers as they pass behind me on the highway. The final moments of the winter's setting sun, the rhythm of the rumble strips beneath my wheels, the signs that say merge left, lane ends, they all act as reminders of the distance between us. It is not just about the miles or the secrets and responsibilities that separate us. It's the sad realization that it is about different dreams and different pains, ones that do not match, distracted thinking. I miss the exit and wonder how to turn around to where we once were, where it was just about love and support and friendship, and not about the hurts or expectations. I turn my lights on and pay the last toll, and remember that is why I don't like to drive alone. And this one I wrote, it's in a similar vein, but it's, I actually don't have a title for this. I've got to think of one. But, my mind is drawn in ink and shaped from thought. You penetrate my pages with hardened consonants and the soft whisper of vowels. Your words are entangled legs, and your pauses, the press of moistened lips, are my stanzas cupped in your graceful hands. And in my mind, your long fingers, couplets, that slip gently along my hips and between my thighs, evoking rhythm and rhyme. Stoking a lingering blush, the rise and fall of my breasts reflected in your eyes. And this one is titled The Music Room. Tucked between the books and the music, there were 19 Buddhists that stared back at me, snug among the world's chaos and desires, carving out the needed refuge on lacquered shelves. There we were dipped more than just our soul. There we dipped, pardon me, read that line over again. There, in that place, we dipped more than just our souls, a place we went to hoping that we could raise the dead, risking the call of hungry hearts, desire hidden behind black curtains that acted to shield the sun from prying eyes, the haunting drone of empty, fickle lives. Garuda, Vishnu's mount, hung in the window, ready to wage that battle for self-supremacy, saddled with lust, not seen since Vedic times. This is where the wheels of life turned, and I hoped that they would encircle us. Instead, a fate took hold and churned those wheels right over us. There, here you talk to angels, and is where I whispered mantras to draw around the silence like a cloak. Both of us uncertain, we tried to make the lane walk, where tantric rhythm rocked our private lives, and we died there, instead becoming the place where 19 Buddhas quietly stood their sacred ground. Okay, just have a couple more. This is a poem that I wrote probably about 5 or 6 years ago when my stepfather passed away. Because I learned something really important that day. And it's titled While I Read Milosz. Milosz is a Polish poet, in case you don't know who Milosz is. The sun slanted in shyly through the south window, and the afternoon sun rarely climbs high that time of year. It left long streaks of shadows over the top of the bed, looking ever so much like a long row of fence posts. Outside the window, the late winter snow was melting, coarse and granular, spent and laid out in dirty piles. It was the last vestige of this long battle that we all waged. You rarely announced your arrival. Unassuming, usually you would just be wearing small blue shoes, or you would show yourself in the brief blush of a cheek, or in the last squeeze of an unclenched fist. But that day, Death, you arrived when the coffee was spilled, and they told her to go home for a change of clothes, a short break from the long vigil. And so she did. Coaxed by the coffee you spilled, she was not there. When they all left, I was the only one there looking for you. I was the only one waiting. I'd never sat and deliberately waited for you before. For many years, you were something I was afraid of. You were the monster in the closet that we all secretly fear. But in February, you came while I sat quietly reading. With a bedside view, I finally realized just how small you were, and how you could blow in on just a sigh or a flutter, almost imperceptible. Yet you were there all the time. You were the unassuming breath between the pages, the beautiful stranger that walked in softly while I read Milosh. The book spread out in my lap, open to page 18, I quietly reading out the section about the reflection in the mirror and the lines about the corset fashioned in shades of lilac. It was in that moment I could hear you and finally felt you. Sitting down on the bed as my eyes moved down the page, and when I looked up, you were leaving, and so was he. And in his still open eyes, I could see your reflection as you left hand in hand. And it was then that I realized I no longer feared you.
Poetry group that Stephen was talking about is Poetry Feast. It's on Facebook, and you should find it if you want to read some poetry or share some poetry. It doesn't have to be with the theme chosen. So that's not really. But if it inspires people, that's great. Our next and our final poet, featured poet tonight, here's an open sign-up sheet, is Julie Ursem Marchand. Hopefully I said that correctly. I've been nervous all day about it. Her poetry has been published in the Squire, which is the Grand Tournament 3 anthology, and the Squire Page a Day Poetry Anthology 2015, both by Writing Nights Press in Cleveland, Ohio. That's Azrael, if you know who that is. Her poetry was broadcast on the Radio Ether program. It's a radio show I do that I post online for fun, number 876. I heard her read at my house a few times. I really like, not only did I like her poetry, I liked the way that she read her poetry, and I thought it would be fun to include her on a couple radio shows, and it worked real well. And she's also had one of, yes, you should be on there. Why don't you send me some? And you should. And it would be nice. And also one of her poems was published in the digital June 2015 issue of the People's Tribune. And again, and I'm not saying this, I really mean this to do, with all you guys, from the bottom of my heart. This is Julie Ursem Marchand, and this is wonderful to have you guys up here reading, and let's give her a big hand.
So used to reading in dark mayholes at this point that
You're great in the light.
I know.
You were born in the light.
Anyway, thank you for the wonderful introduction, and thank everyone
You're
for
welcome.
coming tonight. And I guess I'll start this off. My first poem is called A Dedication. This is for the poems I cannot write, the dreams I can't remember when I wake, and all the stories I am running out of time to tell. For all the things I wish I could give you if money were no object. For all the wrongs I want to right. For every heart to be mended. For the mundane beauty that surrounds us and all the severed ties that once held us, living as one. For all the songs I wish I could sing This is why I write. Please accept these simple offerings from a humble poet, these words on a page strung together to create some meaning behind it all I have to give. Here's a poem going to one of my original muses, which is nature, and this is timely for this time of year, even though there's no snow outside, but they say it's coming, so. Anyway, it's called After the Snowfall. Even the tiniest of branches were glazed with the fallen snow from the night before. Down by the river, geese were swimming in pools and even smaller rivers created by the ice. The cool, crisp air blanketed my lungs with its peace and serenity. As the snow began to fall from the trees, I felt a sense of the snowdrops, crocuses, and daffodils beginning to unfurl their limbs from the frozen earth. Great. One evening, a few years ago, I was washing dishes in the kitchen, and all of a sudden this came into my head. Poems can pop into my head at really odd times, so I just go with it. This one's called Dishwater. The cool breeze gently mingles with the sweat on my back. The zephyr of night carries with it the sweet smell of the rain and the heady scent of the lilacs blooming just outside the open window. I can hear the vehicles in the street parting the waters with their tires as I plunge my hands into the warm, sudsy dishwater, now marred by oil and stained with red sauce. With the steady rhythm of the music from the radio, I slowly make the dishes and pots sparkle and shine, while dusk envelops the steam rising from the sink with crisp rain and lilacs. All right, now it's story time. Here's a couple of poems that are kind of love stories. This first one's called A Balcony in Greece. The glitter on the deep blue sea blurred my vision for an instant before my other senses rose from their slumber. Waves of linen beckoned me to the balcony, but your arms so tenderly encircled my body. I lifted one arm and slipped out from under it as he let out an odorous sigh and curled up in the foam-colored sheets. The translucent drapes lapped at my toes like water along the shore, which was compiled of stones waves eroded over time, while the stone floor of the balcony guided my weary feet into the past of another world. I heard you mutter something in your sleep, and the crinkle of bedding as you rolled over to another dream. I meandered to a corner where I could see a fragment of the Acropolis, whose many structures are carved out of the stalagmites that rose from the sea thousands of years before I looped my legs through this wrought iron rail. The sound of my name pulled me from my thoughts and led me, ambling, to your bed. He looked so beautiful with your unkempt hair and hazy eyes, your arms wrapped around my waist as I sank into you. This one for Halloween in October of 2014. It's called Immortal Beloved. The moonlight rolls over the waves of the lake as I walk on the beach outside of an old hotel, feeling the sand slip between my toes and the zephyr runs its fingers through my hair. Such a quiet, lonely place to find two spirits eternally together, but forever separated by fate. For she cannot leave the boardwalk and can only look at her lover, trapped in the sands beneath her, crying out his lamentations and devotions from the bottom of his broken heart. What cruelty brought them here, I cannot say. Only after carrying fistfuls of sand from the beach and packing it into a flower bed along the boardwalk was I able to see the beauty of true love. How many people out there have worked with the general public? All right. I work at a public library too, and I'm sure many of you can relate to days kind of like this. This one's called Kind Words. Have you been outside lately? It's gorgeous out there. No, sir, I haven't been outside lately. I am sure that you mean well, and I'd like to thank you for your sincerity and friendliness in making light conversation, You are at least the 35th person today that has pointed out to me the beautiful weather out there. But you get to leave the building while I will sit here at the help desk of the computer lab until the library closes, looking out a window behind me that I can't open. Believe me, kind sir, if I were home, I would be pulling weeds in my flower beds, turn over the pungent soil with the shovel to plant sunflowers and snapdragons, and watch the tomato plants blossom. I'd proudly collect dirt under my nails as I uncover the homes of potato bugs, ants, and earthworms, wiggling their way below ground. Instead, the sky begins to blush into the first traces of sunset behind me, and my fingertips are freckled with the black ink from a Sharpie as I try to ignore the slowly moving hands of the clock. You go out there and enjoy the day for me. Of course, in my day working at a library, I've seen a lot of interesting book vandalism, but when I shared this poem with my new coworkers, they're like, no, nobody could have done that. I'm like, seriously, you can't make this shit up. All right, this one is called The Wrath of the. To red country and parts of gray country of Oklahoma, last rains came gently, and they did not cut scarred earth. Plows crossed and recrossed rivulet marks. Last rains lifted corn quickly and scattered weed colonies and grass along sides of roads so that gray country and dark red country began to disappear under a green cover. Unbelievable. Sure, I've seen library books torn up and scribbled in before, but never vandalized with such meticulous care until now. For the first 60 pages of this copy of The Grapes of Wrath, someone decided to cross out every single "the" in one of the greatest pieces of American literature. Perhaps the person was trying to improve the words of John Steinbeck or add their own flair to this tome of the English language. Seriously, every "the" was crossed out with what appears to be an extra fine point black ink Sharpie with one perfectly straight and even line that does not touch the other words. About 20 pages in, the culprit started to circle words like is, are, was, and were, so that the book started to read like, now that sun was on wane, some of its impact was gone, and while air was hot, the hammering rays were weaker. This was not done by a bored person, because there truly was a method to this madness. This was also unlikely the same handiwork of the person who decided to do an entire vernacular edit of one of our large print James Patterson novels. Both of these books would have made great candidates for the Museum of Public Library Lore, if there was such a place, instead of being sadly withdrawn from the collection and chucked into the recycle bin. To all of the people that think it's okay to destroy library items, 1, public library items do not belong to you personally. 2, public library items are meant to be borrowed in good condition by all people. 3, we hold 3 book sales a year where you can purchase and do whatever you wish to the items that we no longer need for our borrowers. 4, if you happen to wander into our grammar section, please, please, please stay away from our copy of Eats, Shoots, and Leaves. It's a zero-tolerance approach to punctuation. Thank you very much. And... one of my favorite pastimes in the summer and also getting back to nature is having a bonfire out in the backyard. This one is called Bonfire. We sit in a half circle around the fire pit, listening to the pine sap crackling, sending a flurry of sparks up in the air before they fade away into the oncoming night. The sun sets, casting its brilliant hues of pinks, sherbets, golds, and violets, slowly changing into the darkest shades of blue before fading to black. The crescent moon makes its slow descent into the western sky as pinpricks of stars begin to burn brightly overhead. The breeze makes more of the sparks and smoke swirl upward, filling the air with the sweet scent of burning embers that will linger in my hair tomorrow. Here's a poem about one of my favorite places growing up. Some of you may know this very spot in Cascade Park.
Oh, yeah.
It's called Lasting Impressions. Walking down the trail towards the river, my feet crush the fallen leaves blanketing the grounds with their autumn colors. The scent of the air is full of damp moss, foliage, and weathered sandstone. My fingers trace the smooth grooves in the stone created by thousands of pounds of ice, leaving the final remnants of glaciers that once blanketed this area with their might. The forged cliffs loom above the languid river below, making its effort to alter this landscape as I ascend the stairs carved by a man in an attempt to leave a lasting impression among the trees growing from the stones left behind. This poem is shadows keep passing over your screen for your amusement, an ultimate deletion at your will. My only hope, after so many job fairs, where hundreds of people want a chance at one of 40 jobs, is a chance to achieve my dreams. You may even throw me into a room with 14 other people for a group interview if you think you want to hear from me at all. You have 2 minutes to tell me why you are a great candidate for this position. Go! Have we come to this? Has this technology that has made our lives so much easier caused us to not see the people behind the flickering words? I apply for more jobs online, update my user profiles, stand in long lines, and try to stand out from the other hopefuls during group interviews. Any interview. Will I get an interview? I simply don't type fast enough for some of you. Is anyone really hiring out there, or are we all just going through the motions, pretending that everything is better now to keep the economic numbers from looking so grim? I hold on to hope, looking for the light at the end of the tunnel. Am I even in the fucking tunnel? You hold the key. You have the power. You alone can change my world. I'm just a blip on your screen. Thank you for applying. Delete. Escape. Here's an old poem I wrote back in high school time. It's called Myopic. I came into your bedroom to try to find all that is lost to the millions of rose petals on your floor. Look into your mirror past my broken face, your fist smashed a minute before, the myopic crystal ball returned to dust, while your deceived eyes raged with ultimate fury to destroy all that you cannot understand. The child shudders through your wrath, but pays no mind to the withered body that is draped across your bed, once beautiful with ornaments and lace women, captivated wove with intricate fingers, clenching mine in a final plea for your love. But despite all this, I see how your beautiful heart can penetrate our souls, only to disengage yours in the process. See the sun stretch its fingers through the window pane, that I myself open to escape from the tomb in your parlor. And with a gentle breeze, a shroud of death came and took you on this place, but there is no escaping from the iris of your eye. I wrote this poem for Dan on our anniversary of May 15th, 2010. It's called Dusk. The evening shadows spread her fingers across the living room floor. I nestle further into your lap with my head resting on your shoulder and my legs stretched across the armrest of the recliner. One of your arms hold me gently to your chest where I can feel your pulse and the steady rhythm of your lungs rise and fall. I breathe in your scent of aftershave tinged with sawdust. I fit so perfectly cradled in your lap, warmed by the great expanse of your heart. I kiss your neck and close my eyes while the soft light of dusk envelops us in her arms. I had to throw in a few of my inspirations today. Here's another love poem from probably one of the greatest books of poetry I've ever read. From 20 Love Poems and a Song of Despair, here's Here I Love You, number 18 by Pablo Neruda. Here I love you. In the dark pines, the wind disentangles itself. The moon glows like phosphorus on the vagrant waters. Days, all one kind, go chasing each other. The snow unfurls in dancing figures. A silver gull slips down from the west. Sometimes a sail, high stars. The black cross of a ship alone. Sometimes I get up early and even my soul is wet. Far away the sea sounds and resounds. This is a port. Here I love you. Here I love you, and the horizon hides you in vain. I love you still among these cold things. Sometimes my kisses go on those heavy vessels that cross the sea toward no arrival. I see myself forgotten, like those old anchors. The piers sadden when the afternoon moors there. My life grows tired, hungry to no purpose. I love what I do not have. You are so far. My loathing wrestles with the slow twilight, but night comes and starts to sing to me. The moon turns its clockwork dream. The biggest stars look at me with your eyes, and as I love you, the pines in the wind want to sing your name with their leaves of wire. Now for something completely different. Okay, when Steve sent me his draft of My Dog Won't Shit in His Yard, I had to answer with a daisy poem, because for everybody that is owned by a dog, you know, there's all kinds of personality quirks, just like people. So this is called My Dog Hates the Printer. At the first sounds of the printer whirring, groaning, and blinking into life, Daisy charges into the home office, barking on red alert with the hair along her spine standing on end. Yes, my precious 13-pound wiener dog gets up on her little hind legs to bark and growl better at the printer looming over her head. I try to get her to stop barking and just relax, but Daisy only looks at me over her shoulder, whimpering at me with an expression of, "Are you nuts?" Clearly, I don't understand the danger of all those poems, resumes, Barnes & Noble coupons, directions, and other documents spewing out of that large rectangular mouth, with their eyes above, all aglow, displaying the current ink cartridge levels. Daisy bravely is my only line of defense against such a monstrosity in the home office, fouling up the aroma of the air with the scent of fresh ink. Who knows what carnage I would find if the printer was closer to the floor. I am sure that I would find shards of plastic, paper, and wire all over the room with my little puppy covered in toner in the middle of the debris field, happily wagging her tail as if to say, "I am such a good girl. I took care of that pesky printer once and for all. Where's my treat?" Due to the advent of Wi-Fi printing, I can now sneak into the office, closing both doors to the room, and turn on the printer. Like I am conducting covert ops in my own house. I can freely send print jobs remotely while I watch Daisy circle and sniff the office door, knowing that something is amiss. If I try to seal myself up in the room to print something, she barks and whines, knowing the game is afoot. Long after the printer is shut down and silent, Daisy lies curled up in her bed across from it, watching and waiting, making little woofing noises, determined to get it next time. Right. I have two more. One is my favorite poem from the Bard himself, Sonnet 116 by William Shakespeare. Let me not to the marriage of true minds admit impediments. Love is not love, which alters when an alteration finds, or bends with the remover to remove. Oh no, it is an ever-fixed mark that looks on tempests and is never shaken. It is the star to ever-wandering bark, whose worth's unknown, although his height be taken. Love's not time-spool, though rosy lips and cheeks within his bending sickle's compass comes. Love alters not, with his brief hours and weeks, but bears it out even to the edge of doom. If this be error, and upon me proved, I never writ, nor no man ever loved. And here's my last poem for the evening. Another poem that popped into my head while washing dishes, so Dan's back there thinking, it's like, man, our kitchen should look totally awesome if she writes more poetry. Well, we should teach Daisy how to do some chores around the house. We'll get her to lick all the dishes clean. Anyway, this one is called Sunset in the Rain. The patter of falling rain on the leaves of the lilac bush outside the open kitchen window blends a cool groove to the reggae beats flowing from the Dirty Head CD that I popped in the player to keep me company while washing dishes. My hips sway to these rhythms until the drying rack is full and I plop a pan under the suds to soak. I shimmy towards the window to listen to the rain pour from the gutters and catch a breath of fresh air. The leaves of the lilac bush gleam the silvery reflection of the clouds above. The belly of the clouds in the distance are illuminated in a blushing coral by the setting sun. As the clouds begin to glow brighter before the day draws to an end, I think perhaps there may be a rainbow on the other side of the house, but I cannot bring myself to leave such glory and beauty. I lean on the refrigerator and I can almost feel the earth roll as I watch the sky transform itself from a golden peach to the slate blue and violet before it fades to black. The music has stopped, but my heart still sways to the rain tumbling from the sky. Thank you very much.
Okay, here's the rundown. It's an open mic, so we'd appreciate it if you didn't leave. If you want to, all right, that's fine too. We want to thank you for your generous donations. That's very, very nice. I have no idea if we'll be back here. We might be, who knows? But we'll keep you posted on Facebook. And if you're not on Facebook, I'm sure there's somebody who is. The open mic is going to be just a few people, literally, and we're asked just to keep to 5 minutes, even with a few people. I want to mention Maya Halls because it's a great poetry venue. It's in Lakewood. It's every Monday, every first Monday of the month. Is that right?
First one.
First Monday. Exactly. Yes.
I'd like to be on there. I was going to decide on.
I know. I wonder what happened. I thought maybe we were silently protesting it. It's all right. We'll put your name on here.
Thank you.
Has anyone else forgotten to sign it? I was going to take a break, and we're not going to do it. If Daryl wants to smoke, he can go smoke. Well, you're not the only one. Lisa smokes too, but I don't want to call her out on that. There you are. That's what I wanted to do. I want to thank Lisa Carter. In all seriousness, she's amazing. I haven't run something in a long time. It was great when she mentioned it on Facebook, and I'm like, yeah, I'd like to try that again. This space is truly an unbelievable space. The old Town Hall Theater, in any way, shape, or form that this kind of thing can help this theater, that's unbelievable. Plus, it's just really nice to have another poetry reading in Cleveland. It really is. I'm all about supporting poets, and I truly am. So that's wonderful. We're going to start with the urban cowboy poet, and I've seen him read at Mayhall, and I wasn't there because I couldn't get a ride, but I heard that he did a mini feature there in March. And I heard it was very good. I'm not going to tell you who told me that, but I heard from the little bird. And so this is wonderful. Now she's rolling her eyes. But anyway, this is the urban cowboy poet, and I'm really excited to bring him up here.
All right. I think you look tall.
Think about somebody.
Before I started, I was just going to say, Julie, I was a public librarian too. everyone in San Diego, you know, don't they always bring you the toughest reference question at closing time?
Yes.
Right. I remember there was 2 minutes to 5 and they come up and say, can you find me some current articles on brain aneurysm surgery? And yeah, I don't know. So I took their email, you know, and get back to them, but you can't, we're not allowed to give medical advice. And my medical advice would be, don't get brain surgery in Mexico. What are you, crazy? That hole in your head? Because they wanted to go to Mexico. Okay. Anyway, I'm Greg, the urban cowboy poet. I take urban legends and I tell them like a cowboy poet would. Let's get Mikey. A cereal company put 3 brothers on the TV screen and launched a tragic chain of events no one could have foreseen. You might know the commercial. You try it. I don't want to try it. Let's get Mikey. He likes it. Hey, Mikey. That's how John and Jeremy happened to discover they could test all kinds of scary foods on their little brother. They devised a wicked plan, these mischievous little elves. They try on Mikey all the stuff grown-ups keep for themselves. Most things Mikey didn't like. Cereal might be a fluke. He couldn't stand the taste of beer. Daddy's cigar made him puke. They fed him caviar, coffee, foie gras, rum, and stinky cheese. Only Mom's imported chocolate truffles seemed to please. So a sweet tooth was Mikey's thing. He rejected a dill pickle, but he enjoyed sweet sparkling wine and the way his bubbles tickled. So the boys revised their test. They gave him to drink or eat brandied fruit or creme de menthe, anything that's sweet. They'd hooked him on sweet cereal, but for them that weren't enough. One day they introduced him to the harder stuff. Rock hard candy, the carbonated kind. The stuff that blows your stomach instead of your mind. He popped those pop rocks in his mouth, and they popped him back. Pretty soon his entire head had sustained a fizz attack. Mikey loved this new sensation. He was overcome with joy. His bros had found a perfect drug to hook this little boy. They had heard a rumor about pop rocks when they had to try. Just like little Mikey, they were on a sugar high. Mikey, you know that you can trust us because we're older. Pop rocks get a lot more fun when you drink a can of soda. The more you eat, more fun you'll have, they told their little brother. He ate half a dozen bags of one, drank a 6-pack over the other. He hiccuped fast, his eyeballs rolled, he was bouncing around the room. He rumbled like a volcano. Then his tummy went, kaboom! Their prank, much to their horror, had done a bang-up job. What used to be Mikey was now a pink and cola-colored blob. John and Jeremy started to cry. They were in a lot of trouble. They had caused poor little Mikey to overdose on bubbles. They missed their little brother, but what were they to do? They couldn't tell their parents he'd OD'd on CO2. They improvised a story. The first one there was handy. Mikey had gotten in a car with a man who gave him candy. The boys must live their whole lives with the consequence of their schemes. Each night a bubbling, fizzing little Mikey haunts their dreams. Pop, pop, fizz, fizz, oh, what a nightmare it is. The whole family lose the day when they thought they tried showbiz. Thank you. As I promised, a brand new one debuted, so I hope I get it right. Son of a gun. May 12, 1863 was the day of a battle between the blue and the gray, when a young Union soldier got in the way of a bullet that shot through his testicle. He got help from the doctor. He was hurt like hell. And off in the distance, they heard a faint yell. The bullet had lodged in a sweet southern belle. In her womb, if you want to get technical. The shot planted his seed and began to reshape her. This marvel was read up in a scholarly paper by the attendant field surgeon named L.G. Capers. Life grew from ballistic inception. Tell us who did this, her parents kept urging. She stuck to her story that she was a virgin. This were confirmed by the Confederate surgeon. Immaculate was her conception. The gal met the Yankee whose baby she carried. They soon fell in love, and then they got married. He stayed with his family till the day he was buried. 'Twere a miracle that shooting had done. Them were our nation's most god-awful days. Brother killing brother, blues against grays. The Lord had done worked in mysterious ways to unite warring tribes with his son. Now, Dr. Capers, a Confederate colonel, presented this case in a medical journal about a Civil War projectile acting paternal. Had his peers and his editors been had? The doc later claimed that he wrote it in fun, but the medical world swore the deed had been done. If you ask me, little grandchild, that son of a gun was your grandpappy's great-great-granddad. Thank you.
Titties and all that. Mark Mannheimer's going to come up.
Mark, do you need a chair? Is this a chair?
No, I'll be able to take it.
Then Lisa. Then I think Juliet's going to read a piece. I'm not sure yet. We're debating. I think she's still there.
I believe this is mine.
I think I talked to Lisa to come up too, so I'm trying to.
Same time.
Go ahead, because I'm looking.
She's looking. You're going to come up. She's looking.
I'm looking,
Juliet's debating.
I'm looking to see if I got it on the web.
I'm causing trouble. And one of the things, if we do come back, I'm trying to get Terry Provost, who is the person who hosts Mayhall's, trying to get him to feature here. So if we do come back, because I really like him. This is Marc Mannheimer. He's a poet. I've never heard him play guitar, so it'll be exciting. He's a poet. I've seen him Mayhall. He's really good. Believe me, if he wasn't, I'd tell you. Everybody knows. Marc Mannheimer.
I played music before I started writing poetry. Been a long time before, maybe 30 years before I started writing poetry. I started writing songs in 98 or something. They're all forgotten by now. Some of the ones I wrote yesterday are forgotten too. Tell me if I'm not loud enough, because my voice is not very good. I write better than I play, better than I sing. We're made to be Neanderthal, and pass it down and get it all. Motion to be social, to be a friend wherever needed. Now today our actions, patience does noise. Pass by a guy lying on the street, taking a step back in the street.
listen.
I will try. This one's written about my dad. You might have to know my dad to get this on. It's a little too late for that. I mean, he's not dead, but you know, he's not gonna arrive here. Tell me, my dad, and I'd love to play this at my dad's funeral. I mean, I've thought about it because you know he's 86. But I went to my mom's funeral and everybody was like, so there's no, I mean, it's a funeral, there's no laughter, and nobody's like conversing, and I'm like, this is what a Jewish funeral is? So,
Yeah.
Right there, right?